Daydreamers Unite.
So, this is Chemical X.
True.
This is Chemical X, and we are here live and direct from motherfucking Owens Mills, Maryland,
Bang bang.
or Baltimore,
Bang bang.
if you round off to the nearest hood or trap.
Bang bang.
So we're gonna do the Civil War review. Follow us online at Chemical X Lab on Twitter and Instagram.
Bang bang.
Yes, sir. I'm Don the Menace, and I'm here with Bang Bang, aka Internet Space,
For sure.
in the building. And we're going to talk about Civil War. This is a review / discussion. So, did you want to talk pros and cons? Favorite scenes?
Let's let's talk about just the feeling. What did it feel like to watch it? Like overall, what was your feelings, man?
My feelings?
Mm-hmm.
I fucking loved the movie. I thought it was great. It's everything I wanted from BVS. You know what I mean? It's everything I want from Batman v Superman. It was done perfectly. Like I said in my Black Eaglezoid rants, it was like action right out the gate. It was no bullshitting. Like right when the movie came on, boom, just action.
Right. I think it's so funny because regardless of what the plot of this movie was, it was going to be compared to Batman versus Superman because of the fact that you have, the two franchises facing off with one movie coming out, right after the other. Obviously not literally, but so this was going to be the comparison regardless. But after you go and see the movie, and I mean, you could tell from the trailers that they had a similar storyline.
Right.
Two big name superheroes facing off with the backdrop of that face off being, the collateral damage of saving lives.
Right.
You're trying to throw other superheroes in the mix and stuff like that. So this was going to happen, the comparison.
Yeah, I've heard that, this movie was a reaction to the announcement of Batman v Superman.
Right.
When they heard that DC was going to be having a big team up movie, Marvel was like, we got to have a big team up movie,
right,
too. So,
but it turned out that Batman vs Superman was not a big team up movie. That they still held a lot of their cards for future films, which you only really see in Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman actually do anything together. However, what I thought was most interesting about their reaction, with this being a reactionary film, is that the story goes that the Russo brothers wanted to convince Marvel to break that Disney formula,
right,
in order to do something fresh for the fans, and in anticipation that from what they could tell about the DC style, they were worried that fans may start to kind of go over into DC's more grounded, dark style, but so they really tried to convince the Marvel execs, Kevin Feige in particular, being that he is the head of this whole thing, and they really tried to convince him that, look, let's really like tone it down, let's bring it more and more grounded, and let's make sure that we have, complex character building and stuff like that in these films, so that DC doesn't, get a chance to pull a rug from under us. And you have to applaud the Russo brothers for that decision. You have to applaud Marvel for allowing them to, just take the ball and run with it. And then you have to shit all over Zack Snyder for fucking it up. Period.
I love shitting on Zack Snyder every chance I get. I want to talk pros about this movie. There are very few cons in my eyes. I don't know about you, Space, but my pros go like this. They had... I rate movies by cheers right now. That's how I'm doing it. And Star Wars got a whole bunch of cheers. You feel me? Batman v Superman got a few cheers. This movie has probably had the most cheers I have ever seen in a motherfucking movie.
Right, in a theater.
Every other scene, somebody's cheering, because that's how emotionally invested these fans are in this movie.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah, how these fans are in these characters. So it is insane, man. But my pros, are like this. you know, they had Alfre Woodard, a really great actress, black lady, in this movie. She, like you said, she held the scene down and made those real moments more real. You know, that scene she shared with Robert Downey Jr. was very intense. You know, when she reached for a purse and it kind of looked like she was getting a gun.
Yeah.
You know,
Robert Downey Jr. and was great the whole movie too. So.
Yes, he was dope. He was dope, man. Just great acting all around from these. Just that hurt ass look. I think I wrote it down. That hurt ass look. Shit. Yeah. It's a hurt ass look when that captain gives Black Widow, when they're all having a discussion about signing the Sokovia thing, and Black Widow agrees with Tony, and Captain looks at Black Widow like, really?
Yeah.
Like, really? Like, he was so hurt at that shit. Because they go back. They like homies. You know what I mean? They're like brother and sister.
Right.
And you can see that towards the end, where she kind of, you know, sacrifices, you know, her allegiance to Tony for him.
Right.
Elizabeth Olsen is a bad motherfucker.
Yeah, I did not like... I told you that after watching the Avengers movie, I'm like, man, Scarlet Witch is lame as fuck. This movie changed that. The Russo brothers just know what they're doing. I mean, that's what it all boils down to.
Scarlet Witch is... I liked her before, but I liked her even more in this movie. Just her powers are awesome. She's pretty much like Goku or some shit. She just fires big-ass energy balls, and she can fly and shit. I mean, she got a nice ass. She had in little skinny shorts, the whole skirts and shit the whole time. She was awesome. I liked her in this movie. She was great. I still didn't like her accent. Her accent was horrible. That Russian accent.
She didn't have no accent.
She did. You just can't tell. She's very bad at saying the accent.
It's like some scenes, it's like she would put a little accent on it. But for the most part, I felt like she was just talking.
I know, that's because she's very bad. That's what I hear. She's just very bad at doing that accent. It's a very bad Russian accent that she does. I love the Ant-Man scene, the after credit Ant-Man scene that you see in the middle of the movie, and it doesn't feel shoehorned. It doesn't feel out of place. It's just
after
there.
After credit Ant-Man scene. What do you
remember at the end of Ant-Man? You see the after credit scene where he's like, "I know a guy." That's from Ant-Man, right?
I'm lost. And
at the end of Ant-Man, where it's Anthony Mackie and Chris Evans.
Oh yeah.
Right. That's from Civil War.
Right.
And it's crazy because it's like it doesn't feel out of place at all. It's so awesome that it's there.
Oh, so when Anthony Mackie was trying to find Ant-Man at the end of Ant-Man, the after credit scene that had Joe Pena in it or whatever that guy's name is, that was a scene that was tied into Civil War when they were trying to find Ant-Man to bring him into Iron Man's team.
Right.
Oh, that's cool, man.
Right.
That's a nice way to tie all that shit together.
It's fucking great. So
if you don't know, now you know, because I didn't know either. So everybody who's listening,
I just recognized that shit, and I was like, this is fucking amazing, because it didn't feel fake, it didn't feel forced, it was just natural.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I thought that was great.
Yeah. What the Russo brothers are doing, man, is like, damn. I mean, you can barely come up with something bad to say.
Right. I mean, the chase scene. It was like a chase scene in the movie. That was amazing. That was like I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. That part where Bucky like snatches the motorcycle from the dude like in midair and like flips on that shit and then rides off. Like, come on, man. That's like straight out of a video game or something. Right.
I mean, the way the action is handled. The Russo brothers have made Captain America so cool because there's high stakes whenever you see him fighting in these movies that are directed by him, and the fact that you don't have that feeling like he can't be harmed. You know what I mean? He can't be stopped. He's not invincible. He's just like this very courageous dude who he's a super soldier, so he's definitely, enhanced. He's not just a normal human being, but he's actually putting himself on the line when he does this stuff. He can die. It's not like he can't. But the way that he will just run into a fight with Iron Man, you know what I mean? Like, who else would do that but Captain America? I mean, or at least the way that the Russo brothers have established it. And it's like making me a Captain America fan
Yeah.
because he's so well represented in these movies. And then the way Chris Evans plays him, it's like, I don't know how they're supposed to replace this dude. Because if they're going to keep this going, no way they'll be able to keep Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans for the length of this whole thing. No way.
Right. That Chris Evans is my Captain America. That he sold me on Captain America. The Russo brothers sold me on Captain America. Yeah. For the longest time, I thought he was fucking boring. You know what I mean?
Right.
But after seeing how he was in the Avengers and then seeing how he was in Winter Soldier in the first Avenger, seeing his personality and all that other stuff, it's just, he's like an amazing superhero.
Yeah.
He's like a selfless superhero, you know what I mean?
Right.
He's pretty much what the fuck we want to see from Superman. You know what I mean? He's kind of like a Boy Scout.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He does the right thing all the time. He doesn't swear and shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's just an overall good guy, and you root for him.
And, the funny thing is, when he's under the tutelage of Josh Whedon, he's a little corny and he's a little bit too quiet boy.
Right.
But when you throw him in the Russo brothers world, he's like a badass dude that's just good and not like a language type of way.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's funny to see the two, because honestly, at this point after Winter Soldier, and definitely with Civil War, because Winter Soldier had its parts, really just the end that felt like, okay, this is what the studio wanted, the large thing at the end. But this movie felt like it was all Russo brothers. You know what I mean? And that it felt like they had their pulse on what this story was about and how the story was told the whole way through. It really seemed like a movie where, and not at any point did anybody from the studio say, hey, you need to do this, right? Except for the fact that when they probably first started doing the movie, Spider-Man probably wasn't involved at first. You know what I mean? But, and even that was handled well. And
very well.
We gotta
it didn't feel forced at all to me.
Right.
It was great.
Right.
And
much love to Tom Holland because he did a great job.
He did a great job.
It was the perfect comedy because he looks like Tobey Maguire, who was a great Spider-Man. And then he had that Andrew Garfield kind of like stuttering, geeky, witty way about him. It's like he was really the best of both worlds.
He was, man. And I had concerns about him being so young initially, but he's a perfect Spider-Man. And that's kind of what you want. Kids are going to see this movie. You want kind of a kid represented. Like everybody in this movie is like in their 30s. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's cool to have someone who's young in that movie represented. Yeah. And it's a great, he has a great substance to like the group dynamic, when he adds that, I guess, young person flair to the group.
For sure. That airport scene felt like it was for kids. It felt like that's the moment that if you're young, that you're going to walk away from the movie loving. It wasn't my favorite fight. My favorite fight is at the end with Captain America, Bucky, and Iron Man. That shit was
intense.
I just saw it again. So it was like, watching it, it's just the stakes are so high, and you feel like somebody could die. And that's the thing. Like,
I thought so. I thought
these superhero movies don't have enough of that where like the hero really feels like he's in trouble. And it's like the plot is always, destroy the world. The fact that it was not destroy the world, but destroy the Avengers, and not by trying to come up with like some dirty bomb or some shit like that, but just like really try to pull them apart emotionally, you know what I mean? And destroy friendships from the outside. Man, that made him, this guy now is my second favorite Marvel villain next to Loki.
Baron Zemo, he's dope.
Yeah.
He's just an evil ass dude, like with no superpowers. He just a heartless motherfucker.
So can we talk about this real quick?
What?
Zemo. Remember I kept saying, when it comes to how Zack Snyder did that film, we would have been sold on Jesse Eisenberg, or just even if it's not Jesse Eisenberg's performance, but we would have been sold on that Lex Luthor thing if we would have got to see him do all those things that he was doing and setting up.
Right.
It was lazy to just, I was just writing in red pen and just sending it to Bruce Wayne, just trying to edge him on, and they never even really say, hey, I know that if I tell Laura, if I get Lois to go somewhere, and put her in danger, that Superman will show up. But if you got the opportunity to see him planting the seeds, like the way you get to
Right.
see this guy Zemo planting the seeds
Right.
and creating the fight,
Mm-hmm.
we would have got that real payoff to the fight, because we would have saw Lex sitting there planting all those seeds and seeing it culminate into a battle. You know what I mean?
Right.
But we don't get to see any of that, and that's just a lesson to Zack Snyder's bitch ass of how it can be done. And this movie is so grounded in its action, and it's so subtle, and that's what's so great about watching, how they have Captain America, do his thing, in that chase scene when the truck flips over, and he just hops right out of that shit,
Yeah.
and just starts running right off of that. And then it's so subtle, the fact that Bucky is got to be running 40 miles per hour and shit, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And it's nobody can even catch his ass. Everybody is trying to get to, but even Black Panther can't chase him. And another subtle part that's my favorite scene in the movie, that chase scene. My
That's
favorite
great.
fight in the movie is the one at the end.
Uh-huh.
But when Black Panther catches up to Bucky and hops on the bike, and Bucky grabs him by the throat and tries to throw him, but he runs up the wall and flips back onto the bike. It
That's
was
dope.
I feel like bad directors would have had that shot where you see his feet running up the wall, and you don't really get to see it in a wide angle, so that you can just appreciate the whole
The
thing.
awesomeness of it.
Right.
Yeah.
It was, the Russo brothers just did a great job, man. They really did a great fucking job.
One thing I noticed in listening to the commentary for the Winter Soldier, the Russo brothers love to take Captain America and put him in situations where the whole world is against him.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it is in Winter Soldier.
Mm-hmm.
That's also how it is in this movie.
Right.
For the most part, it's people are against him,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what makes, because Captain America's kind of boring. He's like a Boy Scout type of dude.
Right.
But when you put the whole world against him, he
Right.
becomes more interesting.
Right.
And you start rooting for this good guy who all this horrible stuff keeps happening to.
Right.
You know what I'm
Because his
saying?
resolve comes out even more.
Right.
You know,
Right.
his values come out
Exactly.
even more. And the fact that he won't compromise his values no matter what anybody thinks.
Right.
If Captain America thinks it's right, then he's going to
gonna do
do
it.
what the fuck he's going to do.
Exactly.
It don't matter who's going against it. And the funny thing about it is, but he's still a patriot at the same time. He can go against the American government or any government, but it's not like that means that he's not for the people. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's what's best for the people as far as the way that he looks at things. It is
Yeah.
pretty cool, man.
Yeah, man. I like talking about Spider-Man again. I love that scene because the one part of the scene
When
where
he's fighting or when Tony meets him.
when Tony meets him, it's almost like a mini Spider-Man movie in the middle of Civil War.
It was like they was trying to get the origin story out the way.
Right.
Because I heard the movie won't have an origin story.
Right, and you kind of hear it in this, how they kind of poke fun at origin stories. He's like, so Tony Stark says to him, "So kid, how this happened?" And he's like, well, it's kind of a long story. Anyway, blah 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 blah. How do you see out this mask or something? She was playing with his mask. They just cut him off when he's trying to tell the origin story. Who gives a shit about the origin story? They're
Right.
saying that in so many words.
Yeah.
I thought that was very cool and,
And the
very
fact
funny.
that he didn't actually explain his uncle dying, he was just like, well, you can do what I do, and you don't do it, and then the bad things happen.
Right.
I thought that was just
I
a
didn't
great
even
way
catch-
of explaining that.
I didn't even catch that as his uncle dying, but that's a great explanation. I didn't even
I
understand
feel like
that.
that's clearly what he was trying to say, is that I
Right.
had the opportunity to do good, I didn't. Then my uncle was killed, and I learned that meant I had to do something. But the actress playing Aunt May, she's fine, man.
Yeah,
I
Marissa
see her in a
Tomei.
lot of stuff.
Marissa
and
Tomei.
What was it about her in that? It was like her scenes as Aunt May, for some reason, are the finest I ever seen her look. I don't know what it is
You
about
gotta see the movie The Wrestler. She plays a stripper in that movie.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay.
And you gotta see, it's another one called Slums of Beverly Hills. I'm a Marissa Tomei fan. I know her movies way too well.
She was in
For a
Empire
nigga.
for a little bit too.
Yeah, she was on Empire, for sure. That's a bad 40-year-old, however old she is, lady.
Mm-hmm.
She can get it all day, all night.
All week.
Yeah. I'm a Community fan. I don't know if you watch that show, Community.
Oh yeah, I used to
Fucking
on
Dean
Pro.
from Community was in it. The guy who plays Dean, he was in the first
Yeah.
scene. It was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Because the Russo brothers, I think, directed the episode of Community. They directed the paintball gun episode.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
What are the Russo brothers known for before they came onto Marvel?
I'm not sure. We can look it up though.
Because I feel like they just get filmmaking. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. You, Me, and Dupree.
Let me see the filmography. A little bit easier. Welcome to Collinwood, You, Me, and Dupree. Damn. I mean,
So they're gonna be on the Infinity War.
they're
That's awesome.
yeah, it's
I didn't even know
it's
that.
like it's
That's
getting
great.
handed over to them at this point. I didn't even know that Josh Whedon wasn't going to have anything else to do with any of the Marvel movies. But that may have been his decision not to come back.
I think it was. I think it was a lot of bullshit on the Age of Ultron thing.
Yeah.
He had to fight them for a lot of scenes and whatnot. But yeah, man, the Russo brothers, I'm all on board with them directing
I
the
don't
rest
know
of the
where
movies.
Marvel found them, man, but they picked the right people to.
I
Because
agree.
the thing is, like, they didn't take away the event movie from the fans, and that was the thing that I've been saying about the Batman vs Superman is that I wanted what the Russo brothers did is what I thought DC was going to do.
Me
That's
too.
what I thought Zack Snyder was there to do.
Me too.
Was to kind of ground these superhero movies, give us a little bit more character development, give us some better just filmmaking as far as cinematically, because there's cinematic choices in this film that like those little artsy things happen every now and again. Like
What in Civil War?
yeah, in Civil
I agree.
War.
Great. It was shot great. It looked great.
Right. I mean, the choice of close-ups. You have Zack Snyder who wants to build tension and drama through close-ups, but never backs the camera up. The Russos, since they obviously didn't want to do a whole bunch of establishing shots and stuff like that. They let you know where this scene was. You got that, you kind of got that flyover of a city and what the name of the city was and stuff like that, so you knew where everything was happening, even if you didn't have the establishing shot. And then you got your little artsy close-ups, and then like even when we get introduced, not when we get introduced to the villain, but when he's supposed to do the interview on Bucky, and there's just a random shot of his shoe, like. That's that artsy shit that directors like to do that they were able to do, but they still made it a fun event movie.
Right.
And it's like,
Why can't you do that, Zack Snyder? What the fuck?
he's not a good filmmaker.
Yeah, I like how they linked the heroes' powers and had them play off each other with their powers. Like how Scarlet Witch blasted Captain America through the window. And you know how Hawkeye put Ant-Man on his arrow. It was so fucking well done. It was pretty much like I noticed a scene in that first opening fight scene where they're all beating the shit out of like the tactical soldiers or whatever. I think this would have fighting like soldiers or some shit. I like it. It was like the scene at the end of the Avengers Age of Ultron. Where like the camera's kind of panning around, you can kind of see everybody use their powers on the villain or the person they're fighting. But it was done, I don't know, just better. It was done faster, and they were like intertwining their powers with each other. It just looked so like if that shit was to really happen for some reason, that's how it would look. It wouldn't look just like, oh, she's gonna use her blaster, he's gonna use a shield, he's gonna do this. No, they would be using them shits together, and in
What
unison.
movie has never given me that, but I always wanted it
What?
because when I was growing up, that's how it was. Is X-Men.
Right.
Right. When I was growing up, you would watch X-Men, and the Sentinels would bust into some shit, and it was like Storm used her powers to help somebody do something, and
Right.
the Beast might throw Wolverine 50 feet and he'll stab somebody.
You never see that in the X-Men movies.
I honestly don't really like the X-Men movies. I think that it got on the right track with First Class.
Yeah, that's
and
the
then,
best one, the best
and
movie.
then the last one I enjoyed, but I feel like all the ones before then I didn't enjoy. The previous trilogy I didn't enjoy. It's pretty much.
Me neither.
What's the next thing? What's your next thing on your list? your list?
Let me see. I like the Star Wars reference that Spider-Man made. That was awesome.
I thought that was I could.
He said that old movie, The Empire Strike. I thought it was genius. I mean, it's a Disney movie, and they're referencing another Disney movie.
Yeah.
I thought that was great.
Yeah, a couple people cheered when he said that.
Oh, really?
And both times I went to see it, and like I said, the second theater I went to see it in was a very small theater full of people who didn't seem to really care about the movie. To be honest, compared to seeing it on the opening day at 9:00, it was like night and day. But people do seem to get excited when they hear a reference to Star Wars.
Yeah, man. That fight scene at the end to me was the shit. Like, the fight scene at the airport. I loved it. Just everything when Ant-Man got big. Pardon that. When Ant-Man got big and the damn, just everything, just the part where all the heroes lined up, like one on this side, one on that side. I'm sure everybody cheered at your theater, right?
Not really.
Well, that's people. We were cheering at my theater for some reason.
The two loudest cheers of the whole movie when I saw it the first time was when Black Panther arrived,
right?
And when Peter Parker went. I mean, when Tony Stark went to Queens to find Peter Parker. And then, what the cool thing was for me? The best reference to me was not Star Wars. Was when, it's giving me chills right now, when Captain America said, "You got heart, kid. Where you from?" Queens. And he's like, Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I was like, oh.
Yeah, right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, that shit was so cool to me.
Yeah.
And I'm not a New Yorker, but it's just like the hip hop reference is what that felt like for me. You know what I mean? With that being my introduction to New York was through rap.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Same here.
And just knowing the whole Queens Brooklyn dynamic from that, that was just a cool ass moment.
It was.
That
was
just
cool.
A cool ass fucking moment, man.
It was dope, man. But I love that. Just that whole scene with that reference was amazing. Just when they all lined up, everyone cheered, and it was just like when I was a kid having my action figures lined up, or even now having my action figures just lined up, and they're about to fuck some shit up.
Right.
It was literally having my action figures come to life, or like playing a fighting game. That's how this movie was. It was pretty much everything I wanted to see from these heroes. I don't think they could have gone any harder.
I think the good part is that there wasn't any moments in there where you're just kind of like, you know what I mean? That because it's so easy to nitpick, things with these superhero characters. But just the fact that the whole fight it just felt like it was going down in a way that it would go down if you had it in real life.
Right.
They have to fight, but they're not trying to kill each other. You know what I mean? Like they're really just trying to like kind of subdue each other. Like one side is just trying to get the other side to kind of fold.
Like that one part where Randy falls out the sky, War Machine, and then Falcon comes down. Like, is he okay or some shit?
Right.
And then
Tony just
boom.
blasts.
Yeah, they're like, get the fuck out.
But you know what? That's what was so awesome about the movie, because Tony Stark's up until this point in Marvel has always been like happy-go-lucky and kind of joking and stuff like that. And I think the Russo brothers kind of took from Iron Man 3 where he was kind of starting to get a little shell-shocked.
Right.
Worried about what he's doing. And that kind of carried over a little bit into the Avengers movie. I think that we're starting to see Tony Stark get a little bit more weathered, a little bit more serious.
He's definitely got some darkness to him.
Right. The dark side of Tony Stark is kind of coming out. And just people being like, hey, don't trust that guy. Because at this point, he created Ultron. He caused some of the Avengers to get locked up and stuff like that. I mean, it's getting to that point, and I think that's a very interesting dynamic that's building.
Right.
And when I say interesting, I'm not just using the word just to use it. It's very, very interesting. My excitement for what's coming next in the Marvel Cinematic Universe has actually been renewed because of this movie.
Same here.
Because I thought the shit was getting lame. And
me too.
And that's what made me root for DC so much, is because it's like I wanted something new.
Right.
The Russo brothers gave me that, and now I don't feel like I need to root for it anymore.
Right. That's amazing, man. I think that's pretty much it. As far as cons, I feel like it may have been a few too many jokes. That's my only thing. It was like every 5 minutes, it seemed like, especially during that fight scene in the airport that you said was for kids.
Right.
I agree, because there was so many jokes. Like after every
Right.
punch, joke.
I feel like if there was any part of the whole film that felt like the studio said, hey, make sure you don't forget to do this.
Right.
I feel like that was the part.
Yeah.
And I felt like Spider-Man's involvement in it kind of changed the tone of it. But my thing was that like none of the jokes were wink wink to the camera or too corny for me, so I was able to roll with it.
Yeah, they were good jokes,
Right.
I think.
And
they
I
were
think
good jokes.
also, one thing that kept me grounded in some of those jokes was the fact that these are friends fighting each other. Nobody's really trying to kill each other. I hate it when they're fighting a villain that's trying to like fucking take their head off, and it's like they try to find a joke. But
yeah. That's stupid.
To me, it made sense for it to. I could see how it could have stayed lighthearted if they're not trying to like actually murder each other. Although when Vision ends up accidentally hitting War Machine and knocking him out of the sky, the fact that shot was supposed to be meant for the Falcon, it's like couldn't that have been the Falcon instead? Yeah. And he doesn't have armor to have survived that fall because War Machine literally was like, Vision, we need you. I got a bogey on my 6. Turn him into a glider. So he was trying to hit the Falcon. He probably would have fucked around and killed him. Right. But with all that said, I want to say one last thing. I don't really have I guess if I had any con, I don't really have one. I mean, they just did a great job. But can we discuss one last thing?
What?
In the advanced screening, I was seeing like one of the sites that I go to, Geek Tyrant, they're calling this the best superhero movie ever, and I've loosely seen that suggested. What are your thoughts on that? Is this the best superhero movie ever, or is just the best Marvel?
Definitely movie? The best Marvel, I think, or at least one of the best. The best superhero movie ever. It may be. I mean, you got to look at every superhero movie that's come before it. I feel like The Dark Knight before now I think that's still kind of the best superhero movie ever.
That's the same way I feel. I feel like it's still not better than Dark Knight, as good as it was.
Right.
And as much as it offered to the genre, still not better than Dark
Knight. Yeah, that would be my favorite superhero, or the best, what I would call the best. But my favorite, this may be my favorite, just because it's like the kid in me coming out. It's just, it's fucking damn near every superhero fighting the other superhero. Right. Like, what more could you really ask for? Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, honestly, I feel like as much of a Batman guy I am, The Dark Knight is still the best superhero movie, but when you look at what superhero movies have become, it's becoming less and less of an actual superhero movie. It's kind of just a real good-ass movie that just happens to be about Batman. Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because it's really, the action is great when you do get action, but most of the movie is not action. Where probably 40 to 50% of this movie is action. Right. It's just the other parts of the movie are so good. You know what I mean? That you know that you're watching a superhero film. You know what I mean?
Were you talking about Civil War now?
Civil War. Yeah. I feel like Civil War has all the elements of a big time event blockbuster while also giving you a good movie cinematically, directing wise, performance wise, and stuff like that. So this may end up being kind of my favorite one to revisit. You know what I mean? Like if it's on TV, I'll stop. Or like when I see it come out on DVD, if I got a few dollars, I might fuck around and buy it type of thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, man. Only one last con I had was Hawkeye. They didn't really show Hawkeye that much. Well, I know people really don't give a shit about Hawkeye. Yeah. I'm kind of like, whatever. When he was on the screen and when he was there, it was pretty funny. He was cool.
I liked what he was doing.
I did too. I thought that was great. That's my only thing. Maybe they could have shown Hawkeye a little bit more.
I liked Ant-Man.
Ant-Man was great.
I like the Ant-Man movie, and I like Paul Rudd.
Me too.
So I actually got like excited when he was in the back of that van. And the funny thing is, like, for whatever reason, I had a feeling, like, to me it was just a feeling in the theater both times I went to see it, that most people didn't go to see the Ant-Man movie. Right. I just had this feeling that, like,
I think that too.
People didn't know even who he was when they opened up that van. Right. Because, like, there was, the first time I went to see it, like I said, I knew I was in a place where there was a lot of fans. I was seeing a lot of Captain America t-shirts and hats and stuff like that. There was a lot of cheering and excitement for the introduction of characters and stuff like that. But when Ant-Man opened the thing, I felt like I heard just a few people like, yeah.
Right, not
but
as
it
many
wasn't
as
like
before.
It was when even when Hawkeye showed up, I heard more people being like, "Hey, there's Hawkeye."
Right, because they saw the Avengers probably.
Right. But like Ant-Man, I really do love Ant-Man, and I'm glad that they gave him something to do.
I agree.
I don't know how they were able to fit all those different superheroes, and then they all bring their own tone because of their abilities. Like Ant-Man's abilities are so stupid that it's like his tone is so goofy, but it's like they made it fit by like him going in Tony Stark's suit and just starting to pull shit out and stuff like that. It was like he actually had something to do. He wasn't there just because somebody was like, "Hey, we want Ant-Man in this movie." You know what I mean?
That's the genius really of it. Everybody's main concern with this movie was it's too many people. How you gonna fit this many people in the movie? But now we know it can work.
Yes.
It can really work.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter that you have this many people.
And Black Panther's involvement was like, it was paramount to the movie. I didn't know that it was going to be like that.
Me neither.
Especially even the ending. I mean, it even teases that, you know, he's gonna be important to this universe moving forward. You know what I mean? And Chadwick Boseman, man. I mean, this is a guy who's been he's been Jackie Robinson, and he's been Jamie Foxx.
James
Brown. And now he's the Black Panther. And when I first heard him talk, I was just like, oh, I loved what he's doing with that voice.
With that
you know
accent.
What I'm saying? What he's doing with the accent.
Funny thing is with this movie, you got James Brown and Chadwick Boseman, and you have Don Cheadle with
oh, right. True.
With Miles Davis. So you got James Brown and Miles Davis in the Marvel film.
And let's I mean, you got to throw some respect out there. Just thinking of that, you saying that.
And there's 3 black superheroes.
That's what I was about to say.
3, and none of them died.
right. And all 3, Anthony Mackie, a guy who like has had a long career, but now is starting to get some really high profile jobs. And you know, I had never heard of Chadwick Boseman before, seen him in anything until he kind of just popped up on the scene. So
Same.
I don't know what he's done, but obviously he works hard, and Don Cheadle is just well respected. So it's like 3 different levels of black actors, all very well known and respected. And Chadwick Boseman, man, he's just the man, and he did so much with that character with so little. Like my favorite part, one of my favorite things he does with the character is like, I feel like anybody who knows a like native African person, they tend to be very like prideful, and like they tend to like really have like the basis of their morals and stuff like that, or in their culture is very within them. They tend to be like very like, okay, if I say I'm gonna do A, B, C, and D, then I'm gonna do it.
Right.
And like I love that about him. It to me, just, you know, my mother used to be married to an African man. I know that African, you know, men tend to be that way that he was. It was like he was stern, he was serious, and it was just like he was gonna get his guy. And when he's in that little plane and he's following Tony Stark's, and like the way he's looking, because he kind of just turned to the side and he just looks angry as a bitch. Like most people fly a plane like this, but he was like this, like
over to the side.
Fuck up! Like, but like, it was just cool, man. It was all very cool.
Yeah, he played that part to the death, man. He did a really good job, and I didn't know his part was going to be that big. I didn't know Spider-Man's part was going to be that big, and it didn't feel like that long of a movie. It's a lot of stuff that fit in that movie, and it didn't feel long. It didn't feel boring. It's
take notes, Zack Snyder.
Yes,
and if you ain't gonna get with the program, DC, you have everything you need now to realize that this guy just don't know what he's doing. So, you know, find you some Russo brothers. You know, go and look at some movies that because Marvel, you know, Disney Studios pull these guys out of nowhere.
Right.
You know,
find some directors from NBC TV shows. These people directed Community. Find you some people who directed 30 Rock. I'll do something. You need a new director, because Zack Snyder is not the one,
because after this, you know, if people have to choose between Justice League and Infinity War, it's a landslide. You know what I mean? So it's like they're gonna have to do something, man.
Yeah, man. But I think we covered pretty much everything. What would you give this movie in the letter grade?
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't see. I mean, it was an A+ effort. Honestly, it's not a whole lot bad that you can say about it. The one thing that I've read about it after the advanced screenings, I didn't do any in-depth reading of anything. There was just one thing. I think it was like 2 sentences. So that made me read it because I knew it wasn't going to, like, you know, tell me too much. and all it said was, it was a great movie, can be slow at times, but a great movie, and that's what I saw, was a great movie. It does have some slow parts, but those slow parts are establishing things that make those fight scenes and stuff like that much more, impactful. So,
Right.
It's well worth watching the whole thing.
Yeah, I would give it an A minus. Only reason I wouldn't give it an A plus is just, I don't know, maybe The Dark Knight is an A plus or something
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
going back, I think I would just give it an A.
Yeah, but it's an A, better than, other movies. So, yeah, man. So we're gonna sign out some loud ass kids around here that I can hear on the mic.
Yeah, man. I need to take my belt off. And that's funny because I was wondering where the sound came from because I could hear it in my microphone. So it made me wonder, like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Like, is that
this
feedback?
microphone is very nice, man.
Yeah, clearly.
Yes, sir. But yeah, man, we're gonna sign off and follow us online at Chemical X Lab. Subscribe to us, man. We're gonna be reviewing fucking X-Men Apocalypse, right? You gonna go see that?
Yeah.
I'm kind of excited for that shit.
I'm not too excited.
I want to see Olivia Munn. She look good as.
I have a problem. The X-Men. I mean, seriously, like I said, the first trilogy was garbage in my opinion.
Yeah, it was. It was bullshit.
The first two movies to start out this trilogy have been far better, but it still hasn't been X-Men to me. I still don't be feeling like I lit.
But does this new one kind of look like the closest it's been?
Until you had like Apocalypse on some like world domination shit. I'm tired of that. That's what I really love about what I just saw. I'm tired of the.
He wasn't. I want to take over the world. He was like, I just want to fuck with these dudes real quick.
Right. Let me just fuck with these people, and it's like it doesn't always have to be taking over the world. And when you come from the place that I know you and I come from and watch it, you may not think the same way I think about it, but Saturday morning cartoons, because it was, multiple episodes and multiple seasons. It wasn't, let's try to destroy the world in one movie.
Right.
You know what I mean? In one setting. It was like there was a lot more, things that villains did other than just try to take over the world every time.
And you tired of seeing it. Every movie is take over the world. Come on, man.
And they beating us over the head with the narrative of, mutants feeling, like they can't be themselves and being restricted in the world of humanity, and then they don't hate humanity. They kind of beating a dead horse with that. It's like,
and the whole world
destruction
destruction thing. I like with this movie and even BVS, they talk about these things that fans talk about, like how many people were in that building that they just flew a plane into. You know what I mean? Shit like that. Like they are still doing this shit in this X-Men Apocalypse movie. What it looks like, they're destroying buildings, they're tearing cities up. It's like, come on, man. Like we've seen that a million times.
Yeah, it's getting old. You know what I actually am more excited about after the previews? The Ninja Turtle movie, man.
I gotta see that. I haven't seen it yet. Man. What about Doctor Strange? That looks kind of.
God, that shit. I don't know
like
anything about Doctor Strange.
Me neither.
Yeah, the previews make me like, damn, I want to see this movie.
Really?
Yeah.
It looks cool. I'm gonna see it regardless because it's Marvel. I'm not too sold on it at this point. I'm excited for it though. I can't wait to see it. I know it's probably gonna be good. For some reason, just the previews just haven't sold
What
me.
I'm excited about is that Benedict Cumberbatch is a really good actor.
Right.
He has a very demanding voice, and when I heard his voice as Doctor Strange, it just pulled me in. And just being somebody who's kind of looked into, like, Hinduism with the chakras and stuff like that, just to know that this is going to be kind of trippy, and
it's going to be trippy.
Challenge, our thoughts on reality and stuff like that. The concepts that this movie may introduce makes me.
I love that scene where it's like the two cities or three cities folding on top of each other. You see him falling between the cities. That looks crazy. I would love to see that in 3D.
Right.
If they expand on that scene, that would look awesome. That'd
I hear that that there was some Easter eggs from the Doctor Strange universe that were in Ant-Man when he was kind of going through that phase that he was going through.
Yeah, probably with the Dark Force. That's part of Doctor Strange's powers, the Dark Force. That's in actually Agent Carter season 2 is part of that whole thing. So kind of how he gets his powers is from this other dimension that harnesses the Dark Force, and he harnesses the Dark Force when he uses his powers. Something along those lines.
Okay,
so that's probably what the hell that was. Cool. Super nerdy shit I'm be on all the time.
Hey man, that's cool, man. I know one thing, we gonna wrap it up, but I will say this, going forward, I'm gonna be looking into some Black Panther lore, man, because I was
Hell
really,
yeah.
really intrigued by him, man. That shit was.
I just hate we had to wait till 2018, man.
Yeah, that's a whiles away, and with the way the movie ended, I didn't know it was 2018. I just that made me assume that it was right around the corner, because I felt like I felt like they might be teasing that kind of what some of the conflict is going to be in that movie when they, when he says, Bucky being here is going to have them coming for him, and they're going to come and he's like, let them try. And he had that big ass Black Panther outside of his shit.
Yeah, it was dope. That shit was dope, man.
My new favorite superhero, I think.
Yes, sir. He's great. So, yeah, man, we're going to sign off, man. Just follow us online. Comment, what did you like, man, about this movie? And just check back for more shit. This shit has gone long enough.
Yeah, for sure. At DDP online. At DDP_online at the Chemical X Lab. ChemicalXLab.com coming soon, man.
Yes, sir. Peace. They were super clear, super concise, super easy to follow. Great utilizing like the other characters' powers and using them together. For instance, like when Scarlet Witch like blasts Captain America through a window. By the way, spoilers. That like it's so great how and of course the thing with Hawkeye and Ant-Man and putting him on the tip of the arrow and all this stuff. It's just how
Daydreamers unite.